However, what about the big hitters? Arno de Mester on the Yamaha. He says, I love the sand. For me, it's been natural to ride on the stand. And at Dunkirk, where I'm from, there are many good places to practice. And since I was very young, I've always been riding on the sand. De Mester has been the victor at Le Touquet in 95, 96, 98 and last year in 2002 he took his 4th victory, and De Mester is on the cusp of winning his 5th Enduro Le Touquet to be level with Holland's K. van der Van, who won it 5 years on the bounce back in the early 80s. Could he do it this time around? It's going to be a tall order. However, what can Thierry Baptiste do on his Honda CRF 450? The bigger 4-stroke against the smaller 2-stroke of De Mester. This year I've done everything for this race, but you still can have many problems. It's motorsport, but it's a very special race with the madness of the bottleneck. And this year we have once more 1,000 bikes, so after the start I've really got to do my best.
Dès que je vais tomber, je ferai le maximum de moi-même, je ferai le maxi, et puis après on verra quoi.
In the town square, the riders were soon to get the briefing from the Dakar race director, Hubert Oriol, who yelled out his briefing to the pack, but whether anyone was listening or not was another matter. After leaving Parc Fermé in the middle of town, nearly 1,000 bikes made their way through the streets lined with tens of thousands of people. The high point of the weekend was approaching. The roar of 1,000 cylinders was deafening as they came through the normally quiet town of Le Touquet. The riders made their way through onto the promenade, and soon they were going to be onto the sands, which was a race within itself as riders were jostling for position to get to the start line first and get the best view down to the first corner. Clean bikes were soon going to be a thing of the past. Through the 2-stroke haze of smoke, and the best positions were already being taken on the start line. The tension was building for one of the world's biggest single bike races. The biggest enduro race in the world was go! 959 riders all off for 3 hours of grueling racing over what will be nearly a dozen laps of the 15.5 kilometre circuit. It was madness down into the first bottleneck into the dunes, and it was going to be number 67 who got the whole shot. Nicolas Calais on his Kawasaki KX500, streaking ahead of the rest. He was into the left-hander first, and you can see the thousands of people who were there to witness the soon madness that was going to unfurl in front of their eyes. The casino was just about to start, and place your bets wherever you like. ...959 riders going through a gap of probably some 7 or 8 metres just doesn't work, no matter how you try and calculate it. Some of them were very brave, and they nearly got around the edge and over the top, but even they were eventually caught out. The bottleneck was once more taking more and more prisoners. Calais was victorious around the first lap ahead of Moose Betisse's Honda in third, Honka, and Demesta in fifth, some 25 seconds back. Now here's Demesta on his second passage through, trying to find a way through, and he was using his feet, his bike, anything to barge his way through ahead of some of the other competitors who were not really taking it in the best of taste. And you can see the reason why it was all coming to a grinding halt. People just could not get their machine started right at the point of the bottleneck. It really was Hyde Park Corner gone wrong. Others were getting through and nearly getting through, but eventually they would pay the price. Dudon on the Kawasaki was in the thick of it, and at this point, after 3 laps, he was in 8th position overall. The number 5 machine getting through. After 3 laps, it was now the Honda of Batiste who was quickest and leading ahead of Moose. Demesta in second, Calais, the initial leader, back in fourth. Once more people were trying for the high line, and it was still sometimes working, but even some people who hadn't completed half a lap were beginning to be broken. And while some were getting tired, others were streaking ahead, whilst some were running into mechanical problems. This rider saying, I just can't fix it. I've been preparing for months. Last year I was on a 2-stroke and now I have a 4-stroke, but I'm just miserable about it all. Away from the dunes onto the flatter part of the course, the tide was beginning to come in, and the course that had taken the organisers some 2 months to build was soon being destroyed in a matter of moments. The final small jump before the end of the lap was causing many people all sorts of trouble, whilst on other parts people were jumping for joy, or was it jumping for near certain trouble? Things may have been spectacular, but Le Touquet can be evil, and many people were getting caught out, particularly this incident that was just breathtaking. Le Touquet just never changes, does it? Meanwhile, out there at the front, the other KX 500 Kawasaki was absolutely flat out spectacular stuff. Meanwhile, Demesta's Yamaha was still in control, and he had now asserted himself ahead of Batisse's Honda. The 2-stroke strategy was certainly working at this point as Demesta came in for a pit stop, but it was bad news that he brought in together with his dirty Yamaha, because he was complaining of a lack of rear brake. So not only was the fuel going into the machine and indeed the rider, but they were having to work absolutely all hands on deck to try and solve the problem with the rear brake. He's got a problem with the rear brake, but I think he can continue. He'll be okay. Can he keep his lead? Yes, because he's made 3 laps with this problem, and each time he went faster and faster over each circulation. Demesta continued, but what about the Batiste Honda squad? Their CRF 450 was chasing the Yamaha down. the Yamaha squad received Thierry Bettis's machine for the pit stop. The fuel went in, the brand new goggles went on, and it was going to be a real blast at the finish. Who was going to win the Touquet 2003? More after the break. So next year, I'm going to go through just like they will. But now, I'm just going to go slowly. Demester was finding his way through the madness with some help from his Yamaha squad, and now on the 8th lap he was leading overall by some 49 seconds ahead of Bettis, who was making up time on the Yamaha. Other machines were, as you can see, quite simply gridlocked. And whilst problems were once more befalling the latter runners at the head of the field, Demester's charge was coming to fruition because he had extended his lead by over a minute ahead of Thierry Bettis's Honda, which was now 1 minute and 57 seconds back. Other riders just couldn't believe that they had paid for the privilege of entering the Enduro Le Touquet. Onto the 10th lap, Bettis's second place was closing in on Demester's Yamaha. And still at the bottleneck, people were having problems, some people not even completing half a lap. But even our cameraman had to watch out as Bettis came speeding through. He was on a charge and could sense that Demester was in all sorts of trouble, unlike others who were more fundamentally stuck in the sand. On the 11th lap, problems did indeed come from Demester. He had to refuel for one final time and he was losing precious seconds. The pit stop strategy didn't quite work. Bettis's Honda was now in the lead. He went into the cauldron for the 12th and final time. The lead was a matter of seconds. But by the time he came to the finish, he came through to win. Bettis crossing the finish line. The 4-stroke Honda reigning supreme to make it 8 wins for Honda, bringing them level with Yamaha in outright wins on Le Touquet. They were happy. They were overjoyed. A 4-stroke had beaten everybody else for the very, very first time. I see. My third victory and the second best because I really had to fight all the way until the end. I knew that a 4-stroke could win, and I'm happy because I'm the first one to win with a 4-stroke. It's great. I just can't believe it. I didn't know if I was ahead or not at some point in the race, but it seemed to go well. But when I saw Arno 30 seconds behind, I just gave it everything on the last lap. I still just can't believe it. J'ai tout ce que j'avais en dernier tour et j'en reviens même pas quoi. There were big changes all of the time today, but to be only less than a minute, a matter of moments later with the final lap time, only 9 seconds slower than Bettis, but he was the first loser and just devastated after having run with no rear brake for nearly all of the race. He was reduced to tears but said it's hard because I trained a lot for this, and to finish it in this way, not far back with brake problems, is very, very hard. Third, some 14 minutes back, was Yves Dudon on his Kawasaki. So the results after over 3 hours of